Hello. In this video, I'm going to show you how to do use ESPRIT to come up with CAM software for EDMing, or to come up with a CAM program for EDMing using batch parts. So essentially making multiple parts at a time. I'm going to use the same example that I used in the basic process, except for this time we're going to be a little bit more advanced and we're going to do all of them. If you remember in the last one, when I cut this out, I used a cutoff. I'm not going to actually do this here. In real life, we wanted higher tolerances and we really didn't want the part to move. So I actually had 4 different tabs rather than cutoff, and then we'd come cut it off and allowed us to buffer it. So the first thing I'm going to do is add points. So importing the DXF, it doesn't know where points are. So what we did was we came up with a way of just using crosses, and then I could add them after. So I'm just going to come in, add these points. And then this is a little tedious, but then I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the actual crosses, and now we'll have those in the right spot. Sorry, bear with me. Okay. So now we have all of the points. I'm actually now going to use, so right now it treats this all as one contour, and I want these sections to be different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this trim tool, and what that does is trim between 2 points, and I'm just going to click on that section and get rid of it. Now I actually want to add that section back in, so I'm going to use the arc tool, but I need the center point. So if you go to Cartesian or center point, it will actually pick the center, and so I'll put a point right at the center. And now I'm going to use this arc tool that is based off of the center. We're going to go over here, we're going to click on this point and this point. So now when I do that, I've got 2 different segments. Okay, so now this is ready to go, and what I'm going to do is do it for the rest of them. I've already pre-done this, so I'm just going to open that folder, and I also would add a part setup. So I choose the origin to be right there. So I'm just going to go ahead and open the one that's already done. So it won't let you merge, and I don't want it to merge. I had that checked, and it won't let you merge ESPRIT files, which is good. And we're not going to save this. So here's one that I had already done before. And so I'm just going to save this as a test. And what we're going to do is I'm going to show you kind of why the operations tool is so interesting. So the first thing that we want to do is cut out the gear teeth. So we're going to highlight everything that we want to do, and we're going to create multiple draft features at once. Remember, I'm using, every time I hit something, I'm using Control, and when I'm selecting the gear teeth, I'm using Control and Shift, allowing me to select everything. So this is everything I want to do on the first one. And so we're going to do draft features. This is going to be a die. And if you remember on the last one, I said that I didn't use group to folder. On this, we're going to do group to folder. And I'll show you what this does. So give it a second. It takes a little bit. So this is actually quite a lot of geometry for it, so it takes a little while. So what that does is it actually creates a folder of all of the different draft features. So now all of them are created inside of here. And what this allows for is, I'm just going to rename this to teeth. What I can now do is I can make a contour on this folder, and it'll do it for all of them rather than do one for each one of these. So that's what I'll show you here is, so now we're going to do a contour. And once again, it's a dye, and what we're going to do is a rough cutoff and skim. I'm actually going to not stop on either on any of them, and I'll explain why in a minute. So we just want this to run through. So sure, I'll do a 1/4 inch. I'll call this teeth. And for the face of gear teeth, I typically do rough and 3 skim, so 4 passes. And we'll call this good. So this is going to take a little bit to build this geometry, and honestly, it's going to slow down the program. So now I have, see how it created one for each one of these, which is good. So we have rough, cutoff, skim, skim, skim. Okay. So if we were to do this right now, the order of operations, we can actually come over here and check. So what it's going to do is it's going to do the rough and then cut off and then the 3 skims, rough, cut off, and the 3 skims. So what's obnoxious about this is I would have to be very attentive when I ran this program. So I'd have to wait for the rough to finish, then I'd have to come down and make sure that I was there for the cutoff, take the part out, and it would move to the next one. So what I want to do is, so that I don't have to baby this as much as possible, is I'm going to change the operation. So all you do to change an operation is you click on the one you want and move it to where you want. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do all of the roughing passes at once, and then I'm going to do all of the cutoffs at once. And what this allows me to do is not, I only need to be there when we're doing the cutoffs and removing the slugs. And I'll show you how I do that. So here now it's going to do all of the roughing passes first. And now it does the first cutoff, but it starts doing the skim. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the skim passes up. Okay, so now I've got it in the order that I want. However, if you remember, I put no stops in the cutoff, which means it's just going to run through, which would be a problem because the slugs would be stuck in there. So what I'm going to do is, notice how it creates this contour file or item that I can change outside of the draft features. This one is the global one. If I change this, it'll change it for all of them. But notice that it also creates this for each one of the draft features, and I can actually change this for just these ones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into only this one, and I'm going to add a stop and a slug stop for this one. And so what that's going to do is, if I do this, it only adds it to the first one. If I go into this second one, notice that these are still none. So they don't have stops in there. So now if we were to go over to operations, what this would look like is it would run through all of these, and then it's going to stop here. Actually, I put the slug stop in the wrong spot. I don't want the slug stop after this. What I want to do is stop right before this. And what I'm going to do is put magnets on all of these all at once. And then I actually want the slug stop to be on the last one. So we're gonna change that. So don't do a slug stop here. But on the very last one, we're going to do a slug stop. Okay, so this gives me the functionality that I want, where we'll stop right before this cutoff. I can put the magnets, it'll do all the cutoffs and then stop before it does the skims. I can remove each one of the slugs, and then it can continue on to do all of the skims. So this is what I'm happy with. So I'm actually not going to do the OD in the same program. And the reason for that is this already is pretty slow. And as you add more and more contouring and stuff of that nature, ESPRIT really slows down. So I actually what I would do is just post this right now, and I would start over and do the rest. So that's what we're going to do. I'll just show you, I'll just go through the post. You post it like normal. Everything should turn out. I'll show you what the stops added in. They add in M0s, and you can see that they added them in the right place. I actually like to double check just to make sure everything goes right. So you can see I'm in the coordinate system. I want to be 0, 0. That is where I put the coordinate system. And then it moves inside. So everything looks fine. That's good. Essentially, what this does is adds an M00 right before the cutoffs and right after. So I'm going to actually exit out of this, and I'll show you how we're going to do the OD, the outside diameter. We're just going to open that up again, and I'll show you, and we're not going to merge it. No, and we're not going to save it. Okay, so once again, I've got the fresh slate. We've already done the teeth. And so what we're going to be doing now is the outside diameter. And so first what I want to do is I want to cut these segments. So I'm selecting where I'm going to come in from and the segments themselves. I'll just do it on 2 and you'll get the idea. So now we don't have complete contours. So we're actually going to use something other than a die or a punch, and I'll explain that. So just imagine that we do this on the rest of them. So we're going to create our draft feature. And because we don't have a continuous contour, we don't have the same options. We have open left or open right. So essentially what open left is if you're coming, well, it's easier, I guess, to do it on the bottom one. But if you're coming in, what an open left is going to do is it's going to go to the left. If you choose open right, it's going to go to the right. So we'll just start with open left, but then to do this last section, we'll just do open right and it'll work out. So, okay, once again, I used the group to folder and it created all of these segments. So we're going to come in. And once again, I'm going to click on the folder, not the individual, and I'll come create this. For the outside, what I've been doing is, so for this one, I don't need a cutoff. So we're just going to do rough and skim. Notice that the cutoffs are already in. I'm kind of controlling the cutoffs. So we're going to go with none, none. There's no stopping. Everything should be fine. With this one, I use a rough and 2 skim, so that's going to be a 3 pass, and we're going to go ahead and create it. So with this, there's actually no operations that I really need to change. I'm fine with everything, so we could post this. And then the last thing I would do is just create the well, let's see. This doesn't slow it down very much. So I'll just do this actually in the same one so that you have the complete one. So once again, I'll select that, and I'll just do it on this one. Once again, you can imagine I can continue this. So we'll come in, I'll create a draft feature, but this time I'm going to use an open right strategy. And notice now that it uses, I want it to come in on the same line and now go to this other direction, which is good because if it came in on this side, we would cut it out and we would actually have this spike, which we don't want. So this is perfect. I'm going to rename this to cutoff. This one we can't do skims on because, basically it will be cut off by the end of this. So we're just going to do make sure it's an open right. We want that, no stops, and we're going to just do a rough and 1 pass, and we're going to call that good. So now I've got everything, so I can post this. You want to make sure that your cutoffs are coming. Oh, I see. I didn't change the name, so that gets confusing. That's why I like to change the name. So good, my cutoffs are coming at the end, so everything would be fine. So I could go ahead and post this and run this. Make sure that you watch the operations video to see how I combine ISO files to get the full cutouts. But thank you for watching this video.